but will require a massive effort by governments around the world. And Wayne Gretzky once said, "A good hockey player plays where the puck is. A great hockey player plays where the puck is going to be." For Canada's energy future, the puck is going to be with renewable energy. Canada is uniquely positioned for becoming a renewable energy superpower. Our nation is rich in hydro, wind, solar power, and also the rare earth minerals which are needed for that low-carbon future.
We'll have about 4 minutes after question period to resume his speech. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. L'honorable député de Cape Breton, Canada.
Speaker, I rise in the House today to congratulate both the Cape Breton Music Industry Cooperative and the Nova Scotia Community College for launching the first annual Cape Breton Music Industry Hall of Fame Induction Gala, which will occur this spring, occur in the spring of 2023, rather. I would like to take this moment to congratulate the 2023 inductees, whom, as a point of pride, Madam Speaker, all hail from my riding of Cape Breton-Canso. Yes, nice. Two individuals, Rita McNeil and Matt Minglewood, and the Men of the Deeps, my dad's favourite, and a song induction, Getting Dark Again by Buddy McDonald. Us Cape Bretoners are recognized nationally and internationally for our musical talents, and I could not be prouder of the inductees. And hey, with iconic musicians like that, it's about time to begin to recognize them with a Hall of Fame induction gala. Madam Speaker, on behalf of my colleagues, myself, congratulations to the organizers, to NSCC, to CB Mike, and to all the inductees for making the event possible and sweet sounding.
Nice job.
The Honourable Member for Pont-Neuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Young Florence Gagné, only 5 years old, lost her battle with brainstem infiltrating glioma. This cruel form of cancer especially affects children aged 5 to 7. It is inoperable and incurable. This adorable little princess touched the heart of thousands of citizens of Pont-Neuf-Jacques-Cartier and elsewhere. We have all become very attuned to this cause. Her parents, Stéphanie and Sébastien, like many others, want to work to find a cure for these young children. Her parents notice that there is a lack of resources and a feeling of powerlessness within the medical community. We need to take action and obtain results. I encourage you all to sign the new e-petition, which is 4021, so that May 17th can be declared the National Day for Raising Awareness to Brainstem Infiltrating Glioma. Florence the Princess must inspire us so that we can work to find treatments and save the lives of our little angels. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honour the memory of John Halani, a friend, a businessman and benefactor who helped immigrants settle in Canada. John came to Canada in 1972 as part of the Ismaili exodus from Uganda, expelled by dictator Idi Amin. He worked as a salesman, but an entrepreneur at heart. He later became a hotelier and the head of BC Ethnocultural Business Council. John was a community activist. In 2007, he received the title of Rai, the respected one, from the Aga Khan, was named one of Canada's top immigrants in 2009, and served for many years as honorary consul to Uganda. To his wife, Anar, I send my love and condolences. John's kindness, generosity, and passion for politics and the Liberal Party earned him an enduring place in our hearts. We will miss him.
The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, I am very pleased today to underscore the 140th anniversary of the Trois-Rivières Harbour. In 1882, the brand new Chamber of Commerce convinced the federal government to set up the Harbour Commission, giving it the mission to modernize the harbour facilities and make them part of the railway system to stimulate the region's economy. In the first half of the 20th century, a number of landmark events allowed the port to develop. For example, the arrival of large paper mills in the 1920s and the Great Wars. The seaway was inaugurated at the end of the 50s, and it also allowed the harbour to thrive. Growth continued throughout the 2000s when our urban harbour continued its development and it diminished its carbon footprint. For all these reasons, we're proud of the harbour of Trois-Rivières. I'd like to thank Danielle Saint-Amand and Mr. Gaétan Boivin, who have led this harbour, and I hope they will celebrate well. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Argenteuil-la-Petite-Nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Millions of Ukrainians have had to flee their home country, but citizens and associations in my riding and across the country are working to do their part. In Argenteuil-la-Petite-Nation, Mr. Poilievre, on behalf of the 84 members of the Lions Club of La Chute, offered a donation of $10,000 and furthermore raised funds to the tune of $18,250 in record time for a project that will help Ukrainian refugees. The director of the Séminaire Sacré-Cœur, Christian Laverne, invested time with his friends and colleagues to renovate rooms in a former group home. 8 of the 11 rooms had been deserted, but now they are all ready. Diane Gagné from Thurso picked up the families at the airport herself and will give them a home. Mr. Speaker, it is thanks to actions like this that Canada can be strong and present on the international scene. Slava Ukraini, glory to Ukraine.
The Honourable Member for Niagara West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The last 2 years have been a traumatizing time for many Canadians, and that the NDP Liberal coalition continues to make the situation much worse. They supported draconian rolling lockdowns, which contributed to a mental health disaster. They supported and are still keeping unscientific and the now notorious vaccine mandates, which angered and divided Canadians more than any other policy we've ever seen. By keeping these vindictive mandates, the government continues to punish more than 6 million Canadians who choose to remain unvaccinated. The Liberals are also supporting the pointless ArriveCan app that does nothing to protect Canadians. This app is just another overreach by a government obsessed with surveilling Canadians. ArriveCan must be scrapped immediately, not tomorrow, not next month, but today. Rather than try to save face, the NDP Liberal coalition must finally face reality. Their ArriveCan app and their notorious vaccine mandates must be done away with immediately. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Speaker, it was an honor once again to host the Prime Minister in my riding of Hamilton Mountain, where we greeted 2 families who recently settled in Hamilton after escaping Afghanistan. Last year, Ahmed and Margana fled their home country, clutching their newborn daughter. They now have a home, work in their chosen fields, and their daughter, Harir, not yet 2 years old, will go to school and have opportunities that sadly won't be afforded to many of her peers in Afghanistan. 8-year-old Etresa, 6-year-old Zoya, and their little brother Haris, who also recently fled Kabul with their parents, Mirwais and Zuhal, are thriving academically and making lots of friends. These families were overwhelmed with emotion to thank the Prime Minister for helping them get here and start new lives as Canadians. But as the Prime Minister so rightly noted, we are the lucky ones to have them join our community. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, as I've always stated, the entrepreneurial spirit and can-do attitude that exists in the city of Vaughan is second to none and inspiring. Driven by the decade-long leadership of His Worship, the Honourable Maurizio Bevilacqua, and based on the 3 core values of readiness, resilience, and resourcefulness, the city of Vaughan exits the global pandemic as an economic powerhouse. Vaughan is the largest economy and employment centre in York Region, accounting for nearly 39% of all jobs, and an annual economic output estimated at $25 billion. Critical investments in Vaughan's infrastructure, including the Yonge North Subway extension, development of the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre, the Cordalucci Vaughan Hospital, the Highway 427 extension, and the opening of the YMCA's flagship site are examples of the city's transformation and key partnerships. Mr. Speaker, Vaughan's growth is remarkable, and the future for its residents is bright. We are making the city of Vaughan the city of choice to work, to invest, to live. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to congratulate the Dashmesh Culture Centre, including President Amanpreet Singh Gill and the entire Executive Committee, along with the whole Calgary Sangat, for a very successful and well-organized Nagar Kirtan. There were more than 100,000 people who attended, and this was the first Nagar Kirtan since 2019. I commend the City of Calgary, Calgary Police, EMS, Fire Department, Parks and Recreation, and Alberta Health Services for all their efforts in planning this very successful event. Special thanks to Calgary Transit for providing free transit to anyone in Calgary for the day. It was a great honor to meet Bibi Paramjit Kaur Khalada, the wife of human rights activist, the late Bhai Jaswant Singh Khalada. She was recognized by the Gurdwara Sahib for all of her advocacy. Kanwar Garewal also took time to attend the Nagar Kirtan. This event could not be possible without the seva of hardworking volunteers like United HoC Sports Club and others who ensured the grounds were kept clean. Thank you to everyone who made the Calgary Nagar Kirtan a massive success. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, today I'm wearing my green ribbon for Celiac Awareness Month. Celiac disease affects more than 400,000 Canadians. Yesterday, I met with the Melissa Secord from the Canadian Celiac Association to speak about the importance of early detection of celiac in our community. Some people with celiac don't have symptoms at all, which makes diagnosis difficult. This is why getting screened is so important. Untreated celiac can lead to symptoms of autoimmune disorder like type 1 diabetes and other chronic conditions. As well, those living with celiac need to follow a gluten-free diet for their whole lives. And researchers are working to advance the science, but more needs to be done. I encourage everyone to learn more about this disease and get screened to reduce long-term effects. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
In an interview with Reuters last year, the Prime Minister said that his government had no plans to implement vaccine mandates because they could have knock-on undesirable effects in our communities. He also said that bringing in vaccine passports could have real divisive impacts on Canada. Even though he knew the harms they would cause to our country, the Prime Minister went ahead with his political choice to divide Canadians with his vaccine mandates, and we've all seen the results of his decision to divide. Shameful. It will take years for our country to heal from the divisions that the Prime Minister has created, but that process cannot begin until his discrimination ends. Federal workers who have been fired because of their personal medical choices should get their jobs back immediately. All Canadians, regardless of vaccine status, should be allowed to travel freely within their own country again. It's time to stop the division, get back to pre-pandemic normal, and let the healing begin.
The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Speaker, in many parts of my riding and across beautiful British Columbia, we are blessed with truly pristine forests. Sadly, many of our forests are increasingly being violated by illegal dumping and other unauthorized uses of Crown land. The garbage and filth left behind is simply alarming. Today, I would like to recognize a man named Kane Blake who decided to do something about it. Mr. Blake founded the Okanagan Forest Task Force. He gathered like-minded volunteers and sponsors to work together to remove this illegal garbage and scrap metal to restore our forests. I ask members to please listen to this next part very carefully. The Okanagan Forest Task Force has now removed close to 200,000 pounds of garbage and a further 230,000 pounds of metal waste from our forests. Combined, that's over 430,000 pounds of garbage from our Okanagan forests. I'm sure that there's members in this place who can speak of similar initiatives that do much in their areas. Mr. Speaker, I would ask this chamber to please join me to thank Kane Blake, and I thank the many volunteers and sponsors for all the work they do on behalf of our forests. Thank you.
Great job.
The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Although alcohol consumption is legal and socially acceptable in this country, it can cause major harm to the health and safety of our constituents, in addition to exacerbating a number of social problems such as homelessness. That's why our government is committed to supporting the researchers in Sherbrooke, like those across the country, who act as leaders in terms of research in prevention and treatment of addiction. On Friday, I had the pleasure of announcing a federal contribution of close to $200,000 to Drs. Ouimet and Wagner, who are affiliated with Sherbrooke University. I'm very proud to see how much their two projects will help prevent drunk driving and will make it easier for Sherbrookeers and Canadians to access the services they need. I wish them all success in their future research. Thank you.
The honourable member for Edmonton-Griesbach.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Today, on the day of International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia, I want to recognize the courageous work of the 2S LGBTQ community in my city of Edmonton. The corner of White Ave is notorious for its hateful street preachers that spew homophobic and transphobic messages, making our community unsafe. But our Edmonton 2S LGBT community pushed back, organizing counter-protests weekly whenever the preachers showed up. Just this weekend, hundreds of members of our community gathered at the very same corner of White Ave for the official proclamation of Pride Corner in recognition of our community's continued fight for dignity, safety, and to simply remain ourselves. Although we celebrate this achievement, many in Canada and around the globe continue to face overt hatred, injustice, and discriminations for who they are and who they love. This must change. Let us commit to ending homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia here in Canada and across the globe. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, both of them had just gone out for brunch, croissant, yogurt, and latte. Smiling, one of them said to the other, "I love you, beautiful." And her spouse said, drinking her coffee, "I love you too." They left the cafe. It was sunny. They walked down the street, happy, hand in hand. All of a sudden, someone yelled at them, you should be embarrassed about showing off in public, you lesbians." They turned around, surprised, and one of them felt the person spit on her. The evening before, coming out of a bar, a couple of men were beaten up, were kicked, and insulted. This happens every day. This type of ordinary violence with words, baseball bats, and boots. It happens everywhere, all the time. And we cannot remain silent. On this day of the fight against homophobia and transphobia, on behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I want to say to the LGBTQ community, you are not alone. We are with you, and we will always stand with you. Homophobia and transphobia need to stop.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Last night, Toronto Maple Leaf star Mitch Marner became the latest victim of violent crime in the GTA. According to reports, Marner was a victim of a carjacking near Queensway in Islington and Etobicoke. At almost the exact location just 2 days ago, a woman was a victim of attempted carjacking. So we know that this isn't an isolated incident. But instead of preventing these violent attacks and cracking down on thugs and gangs, the Liberals' soft-on-crime bill C5 rewards violent perpetrators and reduces the penalties for these very types of crimes. It's time for the Liberal members in the GTA to speak out against the dangers of their kid glove approach. Remember, the bill they support eliminates mandatory jail time for major violent and firearms offenses. Shame. They should be behind bars. Exactly. Maybe Mitch Marner will get their attention and convince them to stand up for victims instead of criminals.
Hey. The honourable member for London West.
Pearl, Ruth, Margus, Andre, Geraldine, Catherine, Roberta, Aaron, Celestine, Hayward. These are the names of the sons and daughters of a strong community who were senselessly gunned down while getting groceries this Saturday. Next week, a community in Central Park will not receive their meal that Pearl Young fed them every Saturday for the last 25 years. No one's born hating, they learn how to. Ideas are powerful, words matter. When we feed into conspiracy theories and legitimize hate to score a few political points, it creates irrational fears that breeds racial hate and discriminations. Racism and white supremacy have once again robbed us of brilliant people. This happened in Buffalo, but it happens here too. I know this because it happened in my riding of London West when last year 3 generations of people in one family were taken from us. we still remember, we're still mourning, and we're still very traumatized. I mourn today with the community in Buffalo, but I also mourn with the Black community across the world. And I have to ask this question: when is enough enough? Where do we draw the line? When do we get tired of counting dead bodies? And when do we stop saying that it doesn't happen here in Canada? Because, Mr. Speaker, thoughts and prayers are no longer enough. Thank you.
Yes. Oral questions. Question orale. L'honorable député de Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government's approach to justice reform has been an abject failure. They prioritize the wants of offenders over the needs of victims. There has been a consistent increase in the amount and severity of crime since they took office, especially in Liberal ridings. C5 continues to gut our justice system by removing minimum penalties for criminals who commit serious gun crimes. When will the Prime Minister finally admit his plan isn't working, change course, and stand up for victims instead of criminals?
Hear, hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to a criminal justice reform. It's a promise we made to Canadians, and we intend to keep it. This is about criminal justice policy that actually keeps our communities safe. A justice system that targets unfairly Indigenous peoples, Black and marginalized communities is not effective, does not keep us safe, and must be changed, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Red Deer Lacombe.
It's mind-boggling that this Prime Minister thinks that gangsters who use guns on our streets don't deserve jail time. Conservatives know for a fact that law-abiding firearms owners are amongst the least likely people to commit an offense with a firearm. The original long gun registry was a billion-dollar boondoggle that did nothing to enhance public safety. This new Liberal backdoor registry won't either. Why won't this government focus on criminals and smugglers and leave law-abiding Canadians alone?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, coming out of the events last weekend in Buffalo and seeing this country suffer from numerous tragedies involving gun violence, we took the extraordinary step of banning AR-15s because they're designed to do one thing, and that is to kill people, Mr. Speaker. We've banned those assault rifles, and now we're committed to buying them back. Our plan was backed by the Canadian Association of the Chiefs of Police. What's the Conservatives' plan, Mr. Speaker? To make those AR-15s legal again. Shocking, Mr. Speaker. On this side, we'll continue to make sure that we take the steps that are necessary to keep Canadians safe.
The Honourable Member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, a database with your personal information attached to a unique identifying number, attached to a serial number of a firearm, and administered by the firearms registrar is a gun registry. We know the Prime Minister doesn't think much about Canadians who support legal firearms ownership, but we aren't fools. What is foolish is gutting penalties for criminals who steal firearms, possess stolen firearms, traffic in firearms, or smuggle firearms. Can the Prime Minister explain why he has such a vendetta against target shooters in Estevan while he lets gun-wielding criminals run free in ridings his backbenchers represent?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Speaker, just last week we introduced a stronger ID verification for gun purchases and require businesses to keep records of gun sales, which they are already doing, Mr. Speaker. We've heard from some of those businesses who say this is common sense. Now police will be able to better investigate fraud and locate criminals who steal or try to engage in straw purchasing, which is a legitimate concern. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives can spin all they want, but Canadians see through it because they have no credibility when it comes to fighting against gun crime.
Are we ready? Champrad? L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, 3 shootings took place in Laval last week. A man was shot in broad daylight in Montreal. Laval police say the criminals are impulsive and random. And what's the Liberal government doing about it? They're proposing to repeal mandatory minimum sentences for gun possession offences with Bill C-5. The Liberal approach is to allow armed criminals to keep walking the streets. Can anyone explain to the Prime Minister that his approach is irresponsible and only makes the situation more dangerous than it already was? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, those who commit serious offences are still liable to serious penalties.
Receive serious sentences, Mr. Speaker. Our bill is about getting rid of the failed policies that filled our prisons with low-risk, first-time offenders who needed help, not to be put in jail. These failed policies do not deter crime, did not keep us safe. They target the vulnerable and racialized Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. My colleague should say that to the Laval Chief of Police, who says these people who are willing to do this are very criminalized. No matter how idealistic we are, they won't stop when they get out of jail. Another testimony, my wife is very nervous and scared. You can't go outside anymore. My daughter was lucky, but next time, who knows, with stray bullets? So the Liberals want to leave these criminals on the streets with C5. Why is the Prime Minister putting criminals ahead of victims? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect to my colleague, that's not true. We have a solid plan to prevent firearms from falling into the hands of criminals. We have stricter controls for background checks. What did the Conservatives do? They voted against it. We put $350 into policing and to controlling arms trafficking at the border. What did the Conservatives do? They opposed it. It's unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, wondering why the price of gas is so high? The question's such a good one. CBC looked into where each penny we pay goes. The answer, into the pockets of the oil companies. Their refinery margin has kept going up since 2008. It went from 9 cents a litre to now 48 cents per litre. That's 5 times more in refinery margins. Meanwhile, the federal government keeps subsidizing them. In the latest budget, another $2.4 billion from the public purse. When are they going to cut these gluttons off instead of fattening them up? The Honourable Minister, Associate Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to affordability for Canadians and Quebecers, it's the government of Canada, the Liberal government, that cares. We have a plan for emissions. We have a plan to reduce the cost of living. Here on this side of the House, we've provided assistance for students and seniors and families. Here on this side, we care about affordability. On the other side, all they want to do is pick fights. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, the gluttons are siphoning off our money at the pump with their record refinery margins. And on top of that, they're siphoning off taxpayers' money with federal subsidies. Guzzle, guzzle, guzzle. Every penny they see is more golden than the last. Suncor alone made $3 billion in profits in the last quarter. These gluttons don't need public money. Instead of fattening them up, why doesn't the federal government take that money and give it to the less fortunate and the green transition? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for his question. As he knows full well, we committed to eliminate fossil fuel subsidies by 2023, 2 years earlier than all of our G20 partners, and we've already begun. We've cut by more than $3 billion per year since 2018.
The cost of gasoline is over $2 a litre across this country. That is hurting families. At the same time, these very same oil and gas companies are experiencing massive profits and continue to receive fossil fuel subsidies to the tune of billions of dollars from this government. So my question is, will the Prime Minister support our plan to end the fossil fuel subsidies immediately and reinvest that back into people by doubling the GST tax credit? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable member for the question. And when we're talking about economic drivers in this country, we talk about the oil and gas sector. We talk about aerospace. We talk about the auto sector. It's an important sector for this country. And if we're talking about the rise in gas prices, Mr. Speaker, this is the time when everybody in this House should be focused on getting Vladimir Putin out of Ukraine, not playing cheap politics. That is the real mission. We will keep working on affordability and not worrying about economic engines for this country.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Companies while they're making massive profits. It doesn't make any sense.
The cost of gas is over $2 a litre. This is affecting families while the oil companies are posting record profits while still receiving billions in federal subsidies. Will the Prime Minister support our request to scrap subsidies to fossil fuels and reinvest the money to help families by doubling the GST tax credit? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for his question. Two pieces of good news for him. We are making record investments in Canadian history and among G7 and G20 countries in the green transition. We are investing the most of all G20 countries, and we have committed to eliminate subsidies to fossil fuels by 2023, 2 years earlier than any of our G20 partners. The honourable member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, gang shootings are on the rise. There were 3 in Laval last week alone. The Quebec Association of Chiefs of Police is opposed to Bill C-5, and for good reason. In addition, the Montreal Police Service informs us that a firearm event has occurred every 2 days since the beginning of 2022. So if I understand correctly, this Prime Minister only takes the advice of experts when it suits him? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I agree with my colleague. There have been a number of tragedies involving firearms, and that's precisely why we've taken concrete action. Last year, the Association of Chiefs of Police reported a record number of cases, but that's thanks to the investments the federal government has made at the border. What did the Conservatives do? They voted against that investment. It makes no sense. The honourable member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the minister is mixing two files up. When we're talking about C-5, that's the bill that is going to eliminate mandatory minimums for robbery with a firearm, trafficking, and discharging a firearm with intent. So street gangs are thrilled with this, and they really don't care about anyone. Can they stop talking about the border and talk about the firearms problem? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Those who commit serious offences will continue to receive serious sentences. And let's not get this confused. Our bill is about getting rid of the failed policies that filled our prisons with low-risk, first-time offenders who needed help, not to be put in jail. These failed policies did not deter crime, did not keep us safe. They targeted the vulnerable and racialized Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Fundy Royal.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's Victims and Survivors of Crime Week, but the Liberals refuse to do even the bare minimum to support them. This government has abandoned the responsibility of victims of crime, but they remain champions of their friends, the criminals. The Liberals' Bill C-5 will mean lighter sentences for violent gun crimes, and that offenders charged with human trafficking and sexual assault will be able to serve their time from the comfort of their own homes. Wow. Why won't the Liberals provide the same sense of security to victims and survivors of crime?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to have this opportunity to respond to this question again. I want to be very clear. Those who commit serious offences will continue to receive serious sentences. Our bill is about getting rid of the failed policies that filled our prisons with low-risk, first-time offenders who needed help, not to be put in jail. These failed policies did not deter crime, did not keep us safe. They target the most vulnerable and racialized Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is violent crime and gun crime have gone up significantly. Gangs and criminals are running rampant in our streets. Canadians are seeing it with their own eyes on the news every day. And the Liberal response to this, Mr. Speaker, on one hand, they're eliminating mandatory prison time for criminals who commit dangerous crimes with guns, and on the other hand, they're doubling down on restrictions for licensed, trained, vetted, law-abiding Canadians with a new backdoor registry that will do nothing to deal with the real problem, which is gun smuggling and gang activity in our cities, Mr. Speaker. When will the Liberals start focusing on the real problem, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'm just wondering when Conservatives are going to understand what it takes to keep Canadians safe as it relates to gun violence. That means introducing common sense measures to make sure that guns don't fall into the hands of the wrong people. That means making sure that we support law enforcement so we can stop illegal trafficking at the border. That means making sure that we invest in our communities, Mr. Speaker, so that we can prevent gun crime from occurring in the first place. The Conservatives are weak on all of those measures, Mr. Speaker.
Are we okay? I know. I'm just making sure we all can hear the questions and hear the answers. The Honourable Member of Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's targeting of law-abiding firearms owners is actually making our country less safe. Since becoming Prime Minister, we have seen an increase in gang-related homicides committed with firearms and a decrease in penalties for those convicted of gun crimes. Instead of going after the bad guys, he's going to spend limited taxpayer dollars to rebuild the Liberal long gun registry that goes after the good guys. Why does the Prime Minister continue to target law-abiding Canadians instead of criminals?
Good job. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I just wonder why it is the Conservatives don't support common sense measures when it comes to making sure that guns don't fall into the hands of the wrong people, including criminals, Mr. Speaker. Why do Conservatives continue to...
Order. There's lots of great questions, lots of great answers, and if you want to be on the list, I'm sure if you talk to your whips, you can get on the question list. All right. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety, you can start again.
Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, I'm just wondering when Conservatives are going to support common sense measures that make sure that guns don't fall into the hands of wrong people, including criminals, Mr. Speaker. I'm wondering why it is Conservatives think that the way to keep Canadians safer is to make AR-15s illegal again. These are firearms that were designed for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to kill people. That's why we ban them. That's why we'll buy them back, to protect Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
I'll get to the member in a moment. I'll get to the member. Order. Order. It's enough. The Honourable Member for Medicine Hat, Cardston Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Liberal government's ideological failure on firearms and public safety continues. Their misguided targeting of law-abiding and legal gun owners is now focused on the implementation of another attempt at a gun registry rather than on criminals who obtain firearms illegally and they're smuggled into this country to kill on our streets. This government has shifted from their self-proclaimed evidence-based decision-making to decision-based evidence-making. When will the minister finally wake up to the fact that his failures are costing Canadians lives?
I'll get to the minister in a moment. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, you know, with...
Order. It's going to be a long question period today. I mean, we're only on number 14 here, guys. Number 15. All right. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, I've visited my honourable colleagues' riding. I've met with the law-abiding shooters and hunters, and we have great respect for those individuals because we know that they value safety. The measures we've introduced are common sense. They're about making sure that guns don't fall into the hands of the wrong people, including criminals, Mr. Speaker. The measures we've introduced on this side of the House ensure that AR-15s have no place in our communities. The measures that we've introduced, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House are to invest in communities to prevent gun crime from occurring in the first place. I wish my honourable colleague would support those measures. It's the right thing to do.
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, several Liberal MPs have come out against Quebec's language laws, calling them discriminatory. But the most blatant discrimination is at the federal level, and Francophones are the victims. In the federal public service, Francophones are systematically underrepresented in senior positions, 81% of which are held by Anglophones. At the top of the ladder, everything is done in English. And oddly enough, not a single Liberal MP is speaking out about this. Why is that? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board. Mr. Speaker, respect for official language is not only an obligation and a priority for our government, it's essential for our effectiveness in delivering federal services. We are determined to provide those services in keeping with our language requirements, and we will ensure that positions in the federal public service are identified as bilingual where appropriate, and that candidates have the necessary skills. This is important to maintain a workplace that promotes the use of both official languages. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, this government appointed a unilingual English woman as Lieutenant Governor of New Brunswick, the only bilingual province in Canada. A New Brunswick court has ruled the appointment unconstitutional. But the federal government, if you can believe it, is appealing that decision. The Liberals want to spend public money to defend their right to make a unilingual English appointment in the only bilingual province in Canada. Instead of lecturing Quebec, will this Liberal government stop its attack on French in Canada? The Honourable Minister of Official Languages. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Our government remains resolutely determined to promote French all across Canada. The decision to appeal this decision is in keeping with our obligation to promote linguistic duality. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to ensuring that all future Lieutenant Governors of New Brunswick will be bilingual. The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals who are challenging Bill 96 on Saturday, they're not outraged today that 81% of senior positions in the public service are held by Anglophones. They never criticized the appointment of a unilingual Anglophone Lieutenant Governor in New Brunswick. They said nothing when their government threatened to sue Francophones in BC who had demanded service in French. They never criticized the fact that their government refuses 80% of study permits to Francophones from Africa. Where is this fine bunch of champions when it's time to defend Francophones? The Honourable Minister of Official Languages. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Minister of Official Languages, the promotion and protection of French is an absolute priority. That's why we're so happy that we have retabled our bill to modernize the Official Languages Act. That bill will make a real difference in the lives of Canadians. And I hope the Bloc and all parties in the House will work with us to ensure that we can pass this bill as quickly as possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Chemins-Lévis. Good morning, Mr. Speaker. The rising gas prices are having a real impact on all Canadians. A recent survey shows that 2/3 of Canadians will not travel away from home this summer. The impact is also felt on our shelves. Goods are more expensive to produce and transport, and consumers are ultimately paying the price. But who benefits? The government, Mr. Speaker. For every litre of gasoline sold, more than 60 cents goes into government coffers. When is this government going to ease up on Canadians and lower taxes? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, let's be realistic with the facts. There is no evidence that lowering taxes will pass through to consumers. But this government did create the Canada Child Benefit. What did the Conservatives do? They voted against. We indexed benefits for seniors. The Conservatives voted against. We provided assistance to students. The Conservatives voted against. They're against Canadians. We vote for them. Those are the facts, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, as gas prices soar across the country, this government's response is tone-deaf and even at times condescending. They shrug off astronomical gas prices even though federal taxes contribute to inflation. They say the carbon tax rebate outweighs the cost, but we know that's just not true. The majority of Ontario families are worse off, businesses who ship goods are worse off, and farmers don't get a rebate. They're worse off by thousands of dollars a month. So, Mr. Speaker, as we listen to the government talk about how good gas prices are high, the question is simple. How high do they want them to go?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance.
Speaker, let's look very clearly at what the Parliamentary Budget Officer has said. 8 out of 10 Canadians are better off with a price on pollution. And Mr. Speaker, I don't know why these Conservatives are so against a market mechanism that even Preston Mounting said was the best way to reduce emissions. Mr. Speaker, we're focused on affordability. They're playing politics. Canadians know that.
Order. I just want to remind the member for Simcoe North that booklet that's on top of the desk, on top of in front, that one there was blocking the microphones, to make sure the microphones are not blocked when we're asking questions or answering them as well. Just a technical thing while we slow things down just a little bit. The Honourable Member for Langley Aldergrove.
Mr. Speaker, Vancouver has the highest gas prices in all of North America. The gas station at Vancouver Airport is advertising regular gas at $2.34 a litre. Whoa. The Minister of Finance keeps saying that inflation is a global phenomenon, yet we know that it is this government's policy to actually drive up gasoline prices through their taxation policy. When will this government quit blaming others, take responsibility, and give us a break at the gas pumps?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism and the Associate Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable colleague for his question. There's no evidence that removing tax would pass to consumers, and this House should be focused on getting Vladimir Putin out of Ukraine to restabilize energy markets. Canadians know that gas prices are higher because of the illegal war in Ukraine. The other side wants to play politics. We're focused on affordability, CCB, childcare, putting money in the pockets of Canadians. That's our job. They can scream all they want. We're doing the hard work.
I don't know what you guys had for breakfast, but boy, it was awful good. A lot of energy today. Let's keep that energy down just a little bit. The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
A lot of gas coming from this government. The lobster bait costs have more than doubled because of the decisions of this minister. Average fishing fuel costs have gone up 140% since the fall. The government's disastrous policies are increasing bait and fuel costs for fishing, making it more difficult to earn a living. Because of these increased costs, fishermen are now only able to go out every second day. In Nova Scotia, 70 cents for each litre of diesel goes to governments. It's time to lower gas taxes. When will this government do the right thing and lower gas taxes?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism and the Associate Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll tell you exactly which tax we lowered on the middle class. Twice. Conservatives voted against it, and we raised them on the wealthiest 1%. We created the Canada Child Benefit, indexed to inflation. Now a single mother with 2 children will receive up to $13,666. We increased OAS by 10%. It too is indexed to inflation, Mr. Speaker. That's the work we're doing in this House. They're playing politics.
The Honourable Member for Nunavut.
discovering burial sites outside former residential schools is difficult for Indigenous peoples, and it should be for all Canadians. The government promised to provide support to Indigenous communities looking for their children. Yesterday, the minister admitted that many of the promises they made has no timeline for completion. First Nations and Inuit are still asking for resources to recover bodies and for help heal from the trauma of these discoveries. Why isn't the government delivering faster on their promises to support Indigenous communities?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would highlight the fact that since the discoveries in Kamloops, upon which the first anniversary is coming, this government has deployed over $500 million in assisting communities in this very, very painful step in deciding whether to go and search for lost ones. Not every community will work at the same pace as another one. There are about 70 applications that are still in and fully funded, and we'll continue to be with them. Some have said it could take up to 10 years, and the worst thing they want to see is any government stepping away from that commitment. We'll keep doing it, but at their pace. Thank you.
Excellent. Honourable Member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, every day 20 Canadians die because of drug poisoning while this government sits on real solutions. Policies that stigmatize do not prevent people from using drugs, they prevent people from taking steps to reduce risk or seek help. The government ignored its own expert task force on substance use, which found that criminalizing simple possession feeds stigma and increases risk for people who use drugs. Will the government finally listen to its own expert task force and support my bill that will save Canadians' lives?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for the question and the ongoing advocacy. I did speak with the expert panel yesterday, and as we know, the opioid and toxic drug supply crisis is heartbreaking and has taken a tragic toll on the families, loved ones, and communities. Our government recognized that problematic substance use is a public health issue, and we're working with partners to develop comprehensive health strategies to address it, and including the diversion away from the criminal justice system to other supportive health and social services, as well as safer supply. Our approach builds on previous action, including investments of over $800 million on community-led harm reduction, treatment, and prevention projects.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, we are all aware of the many impacts the pandemic has on Canadians, especially seniors. The Minister of Seniors recently announced funding to support community organizations serving seniors as we continue to face the pandemic. Can the Minister please inform this House how this funding will help seniors in Mississauga-Streetsville and across Canada?
Good question. The Honourable Minister of Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my friend and member from Mississauga-Streetsville for her question and an ongoing advocacy for seniors. Mr. Speaker, I was pleased to announce yesterday that through her New Horizons for Seniors program, we're investing more than $61.3 million and funding over 3,000 community-based projects for seniors across Canada. Mr. Speaker, these projects will help seniors across the country keep active, stay informed, and remain socially engaged during these challenging times. I'd also like to take an opportunity to thank all the organizations like those in my colleagues' riding who have stepped up to serve seniors, especially those most vulnerable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray-Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've all heard the Liberal talking points about hiring additional employees, but clearly this hasn't come anywhere close to solving the never-ending wait times at Service Canada. Time is ticking and Canadian stress and frustration continues to grow. This is a process that the government is fully responsible for and a problem that only a minister can fix. The process is clearly broken and Canadians deserve better. When will the minister do her job?
Excellent. The Honourable Minister.
Times in this House, we certainly understand the feelings of Canadians right now who for the past 2 years have done their part and followed public health advice and now are looking to travel again. Of course, over the past 2 years, there have been many passports that have expired. And so while Service Canadas are fully operational. Every kiosk is open. Employees are working around the clock, evenings and weekends, to service this demand. The demand is exceptionally high. We haven't seen volumes like this since 2006 when the United States required passports, but all employees at Service Canada, including this government, are going to work extra hard to make sure we can serve Canadians as best as possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Just want to remind folks that if you're heckling somebody online, they really can't hear you. The Honourable Member for Dauphin Swan River Neepawa.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians across this country are anxiously waiting for their passports. The government's passport website states, and I quote, "Processing requires 20 business days." But this is not true, Mr. Speaker. Canadians have been waiting months for their passports. And now thousands are being forced to cancel their travel plans because of the Liberal government failed policy in preparing. Instead of blaming Canadians for traveling, when will this government fix the passport crisis they have created?
The Honourable Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as I just said to the previous member through you, we are experiencing an unprecedented demand. And we recognize that Canadians want to travel. And that's why, back in December, we started hiring 500 additional employees to meet this rise in demand. It's why Service Canada employees are working on evenings, on weekends. In fact, for the past 3 weekends, almost a dozen Service Canada passport locations have been open in the busiest areas across the country to meet this demand. It's why there are employees here in the National Capital Region that are assisting with opening and processing applications. We are throwing
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
Early yesterday morning, I went to a passport office here in Ottawa to renew my family's passports. While I was waiting, I personally heard Passport Canada officials tell people in the line to contact their Member of Parliament for assistance in expediting their applications. My office has been told we don't have that capacity anymore. We cannot submit applications like we used to. All we can do is check them over and ensure they are filled out properly. So, Mr. Speaker, why is this Liberal government passing the buck to Member of Parliament's offices when they full well know they should be taking ownership and fixing their own mistakes?
The Honourable Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, as I have mentioned several times in this House, and I will repeat for the benefit of that member and all members, we are experiencing an unprecedented volume, a volume the likes of which we haven't seen since 2006 when the United States required a passport for Canadians. We have already taken additional measures, and we will continue to keep these measures in place as we recognize that there is a pent-up demand for travel. Service Canada and passport employees are working around the clock. They're working overtime, evenings and weekends to do their very best to meet this increase in demand. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Pont-Neuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, I would like to tell the Minister that her solution simply does not work. This government lacks vision. It is always reacting. In the case of Canadian passport renewals, it was foreseeable that there would be an excess demand because of the renewals and the end of the pandemic. There are many cases in my constituency office. Julie, Carl, Marianne, there are many of them. On the Passport Canada website, it says that delivery takes about 20 days rather. Why is this government creating unnecessary expectations and stress for citizens and simply not meeting its deadlines? The Honourable Minister for Families. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and as I mentioned a number of times in English, I will repeat it in French. We understand that there is a very high demand at the moment. We have undertaken a number of measures that I have already explained before the House of Commons a number of times in order to meet this increased demand, unprecedented increased demand. We will continue to implement these measures and keep them in place to meet this demand in order to meet the needs of Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, the police must be given the means to act against the gang war that is raging in the Greater Montreal region. Yesterday, I asked the Minister if he was going to create a registry of criminal organisations to facilitate the arrest of gang members. The Minister responded that the short answer was yes, but without any elaboration. Mr. Speaker, today we are asking for a longer answer. Will he indeed create a registry of criminal organizations? And if so, when? The Honourable Minister for Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, we have the tools and we have granted the tools to policing bodies and law and order in order to fight against street gangs. We will continue to make investments in order to support our police forces. In Quebec, for example, I've had many very constructive conversations with my counterparts in Quebec, Minister Guilbeault, Mayor Plante, Mayor Marchand, and we will continue this important work in collaboration with Quebec. The Honourable Member for Avignon-le-Métis, Metan-Metapédia. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister opened the door. Today he seems to be closing it. Does he not see that there is a gang war in Montreal? The police want a free hand to do their job. They want to be able to make arrests, and that is what the Criminal Organization Registry would make possible. It would make it possible to arrest any member of an officially recognized gang, which is a good incentive for the criminals to calm a bit down. Why, after all the shootings in recent months, is the Minister still reluctant to set up a registry of criminal organizations? The Honourable Minister for Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, there are laws to charge organized crime. There are tools to support the excellent work done by policing bodies to investigate in the field, to reassure everyone that we can protect public safety. On that front, we will continue with a global strategy in order to fight against armed violence, and that is work that we will do together with the Bloc Québécois and all other MPs in this House. Thank you very much.
Member for Cumberland-Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, I spoke to Todd, who worked for the federal government as an engineer. He's immunized for all his usual vaccines except COVID-19. Of course, he's lost his job. He was worried about the short and long-term effects of the new vaccines. Both Todd, the engineer, and his wife, the nurse, are leaving Canada as they cannot work or travel in their own country. Is the exodus of professionals the goal of the Prime Minister's vindictive mandates?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, having a fully vaccinated workforce makes our work sites and our communities safer. And we asked employees of the Federal Public Service to attest to their vaccination status. Mr. Speaker, they stepped up to 99% of employees attested to being fully vaccinated. We committed to review this policy every 6 months, and the policy review is underway. Any decisions will be based on science and the advice of public health officials. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
The Prime Minister continues to punish Canadians who don't agree with him. A letter in the Globe and Mail stated today that continued travel restrictions are an unnecessary and illogical infringement on individual rights of mobility. The Prime Minister states over and over that he stands with Canadians. Well, he sure doesn't want them sitting beside him on a plane, a train, or a bus. So will he put politics aside and allow Canadians to get back to pre-pandemic normal? Or will he continue to punish Canadians for their health choices?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we know more about COVID-19 than ever before, certainly more than back in March of 2020. We have safe, effective vaccines and a highly vaccinated population. We have testing and surveillance tools that allow us to identify new variants of concern and track the spread of this virus. But the future remains uncertain, and people are still getting COVID-19 every single day. It's unpredictable, Mr. Speaker. Our government will continue making decisions based on the best science, from healthcare providers, from public health officials, and will adjust our advice and public health measures based on those and the evolution of this virus.
The Honourable Member Chilliwack Hope.
There are currently two groups of people prevented from getting on commercial flights in Canada. The first group are those on the no-fly list, an air security program that prevents individuals who may commit a terrorist act from getting on a plane. The second group banned from flights in Canada are Canadians who have not been vaccinated against COVID-19. Why are the Liberals treating our fellow citizens who are not vaccinated in the same way they treat those on the no-fly list?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
As I just said, we know more about this virus than we did a couple of years ago, and we continue to have safe and effective and vaccines available.
Order. He's right there, and I can't hear him right now. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The answer, Mr. Speaker. Read the same thing again.
Well, it's okay. I didn't hear the first one, so I'm going to hear the second one. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we know more about COVID-19 than we did 2 years ago. And that's a good thing because we have safe and effective vaccines which continue to be available for everyone. And we continue to have a highly vaccinated population. That's one of the reasons, Mr. Speaker, that we have one of the lowest death rates in the world. We also have new treatments that can help patients from getting seriously ill, but people continue to get COVID-19, and folks are still dying from COVID-19. And it would be great if some of the Conservatives on the other side encourage their populations and their constituents to get vaccinated rather than continuing to rail against
the Honourable Member for Châteauguay-Lacolle.
Mr. Speaker, throughout the country, Canadians have experienced extreme heat waves. Excuse me? Everyone has the right to ask questions and then hear the answers. All right, the Honourable Member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, once again. Throughout the country, Canadians have experienced extreme heat waves, seen their homes destroyed by forest fires and floods, and had their crops devastated by drought. Building a strong and healthy future for Canadians means building homes, infrastructure, and an economy that is prepared to deal with the realities of climate change. Yesterday, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change launched public consultations for the development of Canada's first national adaptation strategy.
Number 2, the Honourable Member, Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my honourable colleague for Châteauguay-Lacolle for her question and her work in this riding. Mr. Speaker, when the roof of your house leaks, you fix your roof and then you argue about what you are going to have for dinner. We can and we must both mitigate and adapt to the effects of climate change. These consultations will lead to an inclusive national adaptation strategy that will ensure that we are prepared for today's and tomorrow's climate and take action to ensure the safety and well-being of our families, our communities and the environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the temporary foreign worker saga continues. Several companies in my riding have received their confirmation letters for favourable labour market impact assessments, or LMIAs, on the 15th of April 2022 after more than 8 months of waiting. 8 months, Mr. Speaker, that is far too long and the process is not even finished yet. Mr. Speaker, the government has a duty to streamline the entire process for accepting temporary foreign workers. When will it do so? The Honourable Minister.
The Honourable Member for his question. Addressing the labour shortage is a top priority for our government, and that's why we're putting additional resources towards processing cases, including work permits, to ensure people have access to the workers that they need. I'd advise the Honourable Member that the average processing time for work permits in the province of Quebec today is 33 days, which is among the very best available in Canada. We're going to continue to do everything we can to get businesses the worker they need. Our economy depends on it, and it's going to help kickstart our economic recovery from the COVID-19 recession.
Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Cardinal Joseph Zen is a 90-year-old retired Catholic cardinal, much loved throughout China and the world for his deep faith and courageous advocacy for democracy. The Chinese Communist Party now considers this 90-year-old clergyman a threat to national security and has arrested Cardinal Zen. Arrested alongside Zen are a number of other prominent voices for justice and human rights, including Canadian citizen, singer, and actress Denise Ho. Will the government join us in clearly condemning these arrests and also commit to strengthening immigration measures to make it easier for human rights defenders in Hong Kong to come to Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the member for the question. The relationship that Canada has with China is complex, it is challenging, and it is always important for us to be mindful of it. As we engage in that relationship, there's no more important issue than Canadian values and Canadian rights, including the human rights agenda of this country. We will continue to stand up for human rights at every opportunity and take every opportunity to speak to our Chinese counterparts about those issues that the member has raised. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for York Simcoe.
Mr. Speaker, on a recent episode of the Fist of State, Canadians were horrified and shocked to see tons of plastic waste shipped overseas from Canada, where it is being burned and dumped in developing countries. While other nations take action, the Liberals are doing nothing. They even blocked my Conservative bill to ban the export of plastic waste. Enough is enough. We need action, Mr. Speaker. The world's ocean and the environment are suffering. Will the Liberals finally stop this shameful practice?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for his question. In fact, our government is in the process of putting the first ever Canadian strategy to reduce plastic pollution, to move Canada towards a circular economy, to ban single plastic use, and to force plastic companies to use more recycled content in the plastic that they produce. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
By the end of the question period, people have lost all the energy.
The honourable member for Longueuil, Charles Lemoine. Mr. Speaker, the environment is very important for the people of my riding. Yesterday, we announced a major investment in the biomethanization plant in Varennes that serves, amongst others, the city of Longueuil. Could the minister tell us more about this promising project for the Quebec economy and our environmental record? Thank you. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, it won't surprise you that I will be thanking my colleague for her excellent work. I would like to say also that we are proud to be investing more than $25 million in this expansion project, which will allow many municipalities in the Greater Montreal area to reduce a greater quantity of organic matter in a way that will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by more than 13,000 tonnes per year and divert thousands of tonnes of organic waste from our landfills. And, Mr. Speaker, that is thanks to the extraordinary work of our colleague for Longueuil, Charles Lemoine.
Churchill, Kawadanogaski.
Mr. Speaker, the public service is back to the good old days where the foreman gave his or her orders in English and the francophones carried them out. The federal government is not setting an example for CN and Air Canada, but rather following their trend. 19% of deputy ministers or associate deputy ministers have French as their first official language spoken, compared to 31% in amongst workers or 23% nationally. The Prime Minister decides upon appointments. He, and he alone, is the one who can correct the situation. When will he show leadership and correct this representation gap at the very top of the public service? The President of the Treasury Board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Official languages are essential to deliver effective service to our constituents. 40% of federal public servants are bilingual. We're also elaborating a new framework for language qualification standards, supervision and evaluation in order to foster a culture of bilingualism in the public service. Every single deputy minister has the obligation of supporting objectives of the Official Languages Act by favouring, of course, the usage of both official languages in their institutions. We will continue to make efforts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Competition Bureau filed to block the Rogers-Shaw merger. This merger would eliminate competition, hurt business growth, and increase consumer prices. Canadians pay some of the highest cell phone fees in the world. We pay close to double the U.S. does for data alone. Now another telecom giant, Quebecor, is using this disastrous merger to try to acquire Freedom Mobile. This will only lead to more price gouging for Canadians. Will this government finally do its job, just like the Competition Bureau has, and stop this outrageous fleecing of Canadians by blocking this merger? Where is the accountability?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
I'd like to thank the member for the question. Accountability is on this side, Mr. Speaker. I've been very clear to Canadians that affordability is center in my decision. I've even said publicly, Mr. Speaker, that under no circumstances I will allow the wholesale transfer of licenses from Rogers to Shaw. Excellent. Mr. Speaker, this is an experienced member of this House. He knows that in addition to my department, the CRTC needs to take a decision and the Competition Bureau. Affordability is key to Canadians. That's what we'll defend.
And that's all the time we have for question period today. We have a few visitors joining us in the gallery, and we should draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the finalists of the 2022 Shaughnessy Cohen Prize for Political Writing. Mike Blanchfield, Joanna Chu, Stephen Polos, and Jeffrey Stephen. Please rise and receive the warm welcome. Now I just want to wait for folks to clear the chamber so we can get on with orders of the day. Thanks for joining us in the gallery today. Orders of the day.
Order emanant du gouvernement, travaux des subsides, resuming consideration of an opposition motion on subsidies for the oil and gas sector, standing in the name of Ms. Collins.
When we left this, the honourable member for South Okanagan West Kootenay had 4 minutes in debate. The honourable member for South Okanagan West Kootenay.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And when we left off for question period, I was talking about how Canada is uniquely positioned for becoming a renewable energy superpower. And in the Natural Resources Committee study on critical minerals, we learned that Canada is the only nation in the Western Hemisphere with all the minerals and metals needed to produce the advanced batteries, electric motors, wind turbine generators that will be needed in the low carbon economy. The International Energy Agency's net zero energy scenario estimates that the global value for select critical minerals will grow substantially